Welcome. Shelli Shaw enjoyed many things in life, and drumming was one of them. On December 28th, Shelli had family and friends surrounding her, and the drumming was an important part of that gathering. I'd like to thank these ladies, Colleen, Teresa, Dee, Sarah, and Aurora, for honoring Shelli with your drumming here today, and all those that surrounded her on December 28th. Thank you. We gather here today as family and friends to support each other with love and understanding as we mourn the loss of an amazing woman. We're also joined by those on our live streaming who I know send their good thoughts and prayers to you in this time of need. There are no words to describe what you're feeling this time, and no comfort that can be given to take away the pain of losing a loved one. Each of our pain is different, so we must allow each other to grieve in our own way. During this time of reflection, don't be afraid to laugh, and don't be afraid to cry. This is a safe place for all of us to grieve and honor Shelli's memory. Now, at the beginning of every dance session, Shelli used to recite and share a specific reading for her class. I'd like to call Colleen forward to share that reading for us as we center our thoughts and prayers on Shelli as we begin this celebration of Shelli's life.
My sisters and I, the blessing. We take our hands above our heads, twisting them around in knots to represent the different stresses and complications in our lives. Waving and rippling our hands down, we release those energies, thoughts, and stresses. Touching our temples with fingertips, we open our minds to the knowledge and experience of belly dance. Bringing our fingers to our lips, we wave out to the right and then to the left as we give thanks to the women who shall share this experience. Bringing our hands down to touch our hearts, we push out and back in as we give thanks to our ancestors who were all dancers and drummers. Bring our hands out and up and then down to touch the ground. We give thanks to the space we are about to dance in. We bring our hands to our ears to open them, to better appreciate the music we are about to hear. Touching the ground once more, we give thanks to the earth as it supports us in our quest to learn new things. Waving out to the right and then to the left, we give thanks once again to the women who dance with us today. Sweeping both hands out and in to touch our forehead, we give thanks to our teacher who guides us on our journey. Take a deep breath in. Sweep arms up as we stand to our ancestors, touching our forehead to new knowledge, touching our chin, our heart for confidence in ourselves, touching our belly to our core of strength, both mental and physical.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for honoring Shelli with those words that she shared many times over the years. This blessing helps us be mindful to what is going on around us, being thankful for those who are in our lives, and being appreciative for what life has to offer as we journey through this world. Hopefully, these words have helped you center your thoughts and prayers on Shelli and realize how she touched so many lives. Now, we know that belly dancing was a big part of Shelli's life, and she got into it to improve her fitness. Shelli started workout at Everybody's Business, a place downtown, and when they offered a belly dancing class, she was intrigued, so she gave it a go. Shelli found that she really loved this form of fitness. And before she knew it, she was in a troupe that performed on Canada Day, in the mall, at the Cypress Center, even in a local Greek restaurant. Over the years, Shelli performed with veils, swords, candelabras, zills, Isis wings, and even snakes. Plus, we all know that she opened her own studio with her friend Cheryl Kenny. For someone that was always on the go, belly dancing seemed like a really good fit for Shelli. But she had a love for many other things, which included the love of her family and friends, her garden, plus her ability to rise above the negative energy that life threw at her. Shelli was an amazing woman. She persevered. She showed those around her how to thrive and survive. Shelli did what she needed to do when it needed to get done in her life. A life that started in Lethbridge in the summer of 1957, where her family spent a few years there before moving to Medicine Hat when she was about 4. Shelli was the oldest of her 4 younger brothers, and she practically raised them. That is, when they weren't picking on her. Like the times they would play hockey and they'd expect Shelli to play goal with Sears catalog strapped to her legs for protection. Way to go, boys. Shelli was a sweet, compassionate kid who followed the rules, and she kept her brothers in line. But she had a mischievous side. After graduating from McCoy High School and moving to Edmonton, Shelli was left, shall we say, unsupervised. So she may not have followed the rules as strictly as she used to. However, Shelli did attend the University of Alberta, entering the Campus Saint-Jean, the French language facility, and she spent about a year there. She left school to start a family with the birth of her daughter, Tanis, and a few years later, she welcomed her son, Tyler, into the fold. And it was in Edmonton that Shelli began her career in law as a receptionist at a law firm. Tanis said that her mom had different families. There was her biological family, there was her dance family, and of course, there was Shelli's work family. To give us an insight into that part of her family, I'd like to call upon her friend, Kathy, to let us in on the story of Shelli's work family and the woman that Kathy came to know.
When you have a friend with a personality as big as Shelli's, it's hard to know where to begin. I first met Shelli in 1986 when I started at Niblock & Company. I was basically the mailroom girl and delivery person, and Shelli was the legal assistant for Pat Wooters, one of the few female lawyers in the city at the time. Now, I thought lawyers' offices were serious, conservative places, and there was Shelli with her purple hair. I remember thinking to myself, how does somebody like that get a job in a place like this? So I guess that would be the first lesson that Shelli taught me, not to determine someone's competence by the way they looked. And while that was the first lesson, it was by no means the last. Shelli and I worked together my entire adult life, except for a brief stint where she followed Beverly Britton Clark and I headed to Pritchard's office. But when Beverly retired, we were quick to offer her a position, and she worked at Pritchard's for 25 and a half years, retiring in June. For 25 and a half years, she had my back, even though everybody knew who the real boss in the relationship was. I tried to fire her on numerous occasions, but she would show up the next morning, and she would tell me where to go and how to get there, or at least where I had to be and what had to be done that day. Shelli was a joy spreader. She loved to laugh and to make everybody else laugh too. Rarely did a holiday go by without Shelli paying tribute to it, coming to the office dressed in Halloween costume or dressed as the Easter Bunny. But it wasn't enough just to dress up. She would also go around the office delivering candy and homemade treats. And when there was baking in the coffee room, it was often as a result of Shelli's generosity. I was the extra lucky beneficiary of her treats. If she saw that I was having a bad day, or if I was having an especially good day, or sometimes just because she went out at lunch and saw chocolate bars on sale. She would wander into my office with one piece missing from the chocolate bar and say, "Hey, can you finish the rest of this because I can't eat it all?" When she was heading to Calgary for her first surgery, I was surprised at how heavy her suitcase was. After all she really needed were her toiletries and a change of clothes. She'd be in a hospital gown for most of the time there. And that's when she reminded me that she was going to be in the hospital close to Halloween. And so she had to take a huge box of mini chocolate bars with her so she would have treats to share with hospital staff and other patients. And that was really such a great example of Shelli. Here she was having major surgery. We didn't know how serious her cancer was, and she was waiting to find out if she needed further treatment. But she was the one handing out treats to doctors, nurses, and patients. And sure enough, when I got to the hospital to pick her up, I had to go and search for her because she was out delivering chocolates to everybody that was there. In keeping with that memory of Shelli, we've placed a basket of chocolates at the registry, and we hope that everyone will take a piece because Shelli would have wanted us to share. Shelli had such a keen mind. She knew more about family law than lots of lawyers. And if we were doing something differently than we usually did, or if something didn't make sense to her, then she would be in my office, questioning me about why we were doing it that way, or why we were doing it one way instead of another. For 25 and a half years, I didn't have to worry about whether the correct procedure was being followed, or whether my calendar was up to date. She just knew, and she just did what needed to be done. She had an uncanny knack of being able to identify previous files so that we could look at how we'd done something before, or we could reuse that big bunch of research we'd already done. And I would give her a few words of description, sometimes about the client or the fact pattern, sometimes about the client's family or maybe about their ex-spouse, and she would almost always be able to say to me, "This is the file," and then she would get it for me. But more than being great at the practical things, Shelli created such amazing relationships with the clients, with many giving her gifts after the files were completed or dropping in long after their matter was done just to say hi. In fact, she still had clients visiting her when she was up at St. Joe's, and I know there are clients watching today. She was always willing to pitch in and do whatever was necessary to help out around the office, even if it meant doing work that she wasn't familiar with. When our office manager went on sick leave, she stepped up to learn how to do a bunch of the accounting. She was already doing all the family law work in the office, and then took on the extra burden of learning the accounting program and helping out with writing and depositing checks and dealing with trust money. Not a small responsibility. And as usual, she did a great job, and she even found a way to make the accounting fun. Shelli was a great teacher. Our office was lucky enough to have her do training for a number of younger staff members, but it wasn't just staff. Young lawyers could also learn a great deal from her about procedure, about ethics, about how to treat clients. She even claimed on many occasions that she was the one who taught me how to swear. I never had the heart to tell her that I did know some of those words before I met her. Shelli taught a legal assistance course at the Medicine Hat College, and not only did she teach the course, but the textbook they gave her to use was from Ontario, which meant she had to revise a good deal of the course curriculum, everything from the naming of the different levels of court to court procedures. And she was also tasked with making up assignments and tests and doing all the marking. All of this was in addition to working full-time at the office. But this extracurricular work wasn't new to Shelli. She was always taking on extra. Working at the casino when Tanis and Tyler were young, eventually moving from dealer to pit boss, then opening her own belly dance studio with Cheryl, including designing classes and choreographing dance routines, putting the final touches on costuming, planning recitals, decorating, and even cleaning the studio. Shelli truly loved belly dance, especially the tribal dance, because it was about being with and learning with and from other women. Opening Anawa Akti with Cheryl was like a dream come true for her. She loved working with her baby bellies, planning birthday parties and making tiny costumes, and she was always excited to report to us how her recitals had gone, with stories about the courageous woman who didn't think she could get up and dance in front of people but succeeded in the end, or the little one who just got up in front and gave it everything she had. She was so inspired by her belly dance ladies and knew most of their stories. She felt belly dance was truly an art form by women, for women, and she was proud to play her part. She even tried to get the work ladies dancing. After work one day, when all the men were away, she gave us a class which left us in stitches. Not sure we learned much, but we sure had a good time. At Shelli's heart was creating relationships with people. Whether it was the cashiers at the IGA who were always excited to see her, or the employees at Mackenzie Drugs, she could always remember everybody's name. She brightened the day of everyone she came into contact with. And it was that heart that reached out to clients at the worst time in their lives and created the connection at Anahuac. If you met her in passing, Shelli probably made you smile, or maybe even laugh out loud. And if you were lucky enough to call her your friend, she was there for you without question and without a thought as to how difficult it might be for her. Her loyalty was unwavering, and you could always count on her. The only thing that sometimes got a little over the top was to hear her talk about her grandchildren. We heard many humorous stories about Kate and Marin and Gracie. Her love and commitment to them was incredible. She was so proud of each one of them. And one of her regrets was that she would not be there to see them become the amazing adults she expects them to be. This year, the kids gave her a booklet that was called What I Love About Nana. She was so proud and touched by how thoughtful the kids had been about what they wrote and how she was able to see the influence she had on their lives. She showed that book to everyone, beaming from ear to ear, and said, "Look what my grandkids made me. Aren't they great?" She made the most of her journey with us. She was proud and independent, but sensible enough to listen and take advice when she needed it, most of the time. And if she didn't want to hear that little piece of wisdom, she would just look you dead in the eye and go. And then you knew it was time to keep it to yourself. When you have a friend with a personality as big as Shelli's, it's hard to know where to stop, too. I could talk to you about her for hours, and I've spent a lot of time doing that with Tanis and Kathy and some of the people from the office. If you're here today, it's because she's touched your life and your heart. She's played a part in the lives of so many people, and I will never forget the amazing part that she played in mine. I couldn't have asked for a better workmate, but she was so much more than that. She was my friend and my confidant, and we shared joys and tears and frustrations about our families and our children and her grandchildren. I'll miss you so much, Shelli. Your wisdom, your spirit, and your laugh. You definitely did life on your own terms right to the end, and maybe that was the most important lesson I learned from you. I'm so proud to have called you my friend.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Kathy shared many memories of Shelli, and it probably triggered some own memories of your own in your own minds. There are a few others that were shared last week, like how Shelli enjoyed reading those true crime and horror books. Tanis remembers sneaking into her bedroom and being introduced to Stephen King because of the novels and books she stole off your mom's shelf. Shelli also looked after her parents in their later years, and there was some mention about some miserable pets over the years that graced Shelli's home, like the parrot Motley, and of course, the cat, Tia, who hated everybody and hated Shelli marginally less. Building on that, I'd like to leave the final memories to her daughter Tanis, who penned these words to honor her mom. I have it up here too. It's in bigger font too, so it might be easier to see.
Oh, wow. Okay. This was really hard to write. How do you sum up and pay tribute to someone like my mother? She was like this tiny little unstoppable force who was usually laughing and just got it done because it needed to be doing, whatever it happened to be at the time. She eventually came to accept that her only daughter is a crybaby, but she did teach me how to laugh through the tears. I remember her in the summer working all day and finding the time to grow the most beautiful gardens, although she would say they were nothing compared to her brother Greg's. She loved to push herself to finally have a garden better than her brothers, and I don't think anyone cared as long as she kept all of us in fresh peas. My mom loved to work a sun-warmed garden and watch her flowers bloom. Sorry. I just found one. Year after year, I would find diagrams of her bed layouts and how she wanted them moved in her house, and they always ended up being amazing. My kids' earliest summer memories are of Nana's backyard and that big inflatable pool, that squeaky swing, and Nana digging in the garden. I'm pretty sure each kid learned to eat dirt on the garden fresh carrots. Pretty sure Gracie's first teething ring was a garden fresh carrot. When Tyler and I were younger, she always made our birthday parties extra special by wrapping every little gift, which usually came from the dollar store, but they were some of the best birthdays I ever had. And yes, her love of Scotch tape came from Tyler and I snooping our presents when we found them. Oops. In our family, her love of the holidays is legendary. She loved dressing both herself and her house up for every holiday. And thanks to her, Christmas will always be larger than life for me. When her grandkids came along, Mom went the extra mile and made sure the holiday magic came alive for them as long as possible. I counted my mother among the wisest women I know. I valued her opinion, and we usually solved the world's problems on our daily phone calls. Okay, they were my own problems. Her advice came from the heart and was usually spot on, and I loved her dearly for it. But my mother could never sit still, especially when it came to being in the kitchen, and I learned early on that her love language was food. She was always baking a few dozen of this or a batch of that to share, and quite often the freezer was filled with bags labeled, "For the office, don't touch." And I always knew if there was lasagna that it was to share with someone else, Greg. But that was nothing compared to her grandkids. I remember I left Mom with Caden when he was about 2, and I had to come home 20 minutes later. And there the two of them were, spoons deep into a chocolate sundae on a 10 a.m. in the morning, and he was 2. She definitely made sure her grandchildren were well fed. They each knew that when Nana came over, she was coming with treats. She gave her unconditional support to me as a mother, giving when she could. She often made sacrifices for her family, asking nothing in return, setting a wonderful example for her grandchildren. As a single mother myself, I often relied on Mom as caregiver when the kids were little, a role she heavily filled. When Caden and Marin were little, she would watch the kids at both their dad's place and my house, following them wherever they happened to be that week. She would work a full day at the office, do the whole nighttime routine with the kids, getting them from school, making supper, and then leaving whichever house with a clean kitchen and whatever laundry that needed to be folded done. Nana made every weekend the kids were with her into something special with crafts, movies, and games. Gracie and Nana had a wicked year-long Uno tournament, with Gracie barely winning. Nana had a knack of making the everyday special for her grandkids. Mom's second love was belly dancing and drumming. She fell in love with the idea of dancing that celebrated women and every type of woman. She loved the complete acceptance and went to form her own tribe of women who loved and supported each other. There are so many great memories of Mom and the 20 years of dancing. I remember dancing in that old Greek restaurant and Mom's coin belts, and she told me they had to have a shot of ouzo before every performance. Ooh. I remember the Goddess Getaway weekends and the amazing sisterhood that Mom was a part of. The early morning yoga classes, and let's be honest, I never made those. It was my only chance to sleep in, but Mom really did love them. The workshops and lessons, and one year I do believe there was lady undergarments thrown into a tree. There was. They were fun. She opened her dream studio, every inch of it lovingly thought out, every detail from the store and consignment shop, the decor and the feel of the studio, and how welcoming it would appear to new students. There were memories of decorating the floats for the parade in her driveway for a few years in a row, recitals in the library theater, the hours and hours of creating routines and step-by-step instruction for brand new dancers, and Mom loved every minute of it. She loved being a teacher and was so engaging with her students, leaving a very memorable impression. Above all, it was important to Mom that every student feel as beautiful as she truly thought that they were, and that feeling came through in her dedication to them. My mother is leaving me with many lessons. How to laugh in the tough times. How to work hard and be proud. How to stand on my own 2 feet and go on. How to love my children and be a good mother for them. And she taught me that friends can be just as important as family. And she was blessed with many of those. I would like to take this moment and thank the staff at St. Joseph's Home and Carmel Hospice for the incredible care and love they showed my mother in the last few months. The care they give gave me peace of mind knowing that someone else was loving up on Mom. Gracie and Nana had a tradition these last few years, a Friday night special. Cheesy scrambled eggs, turkey bacon, and waffles. Waffles with syrup and whipped cream being the favorite. My mother loved breakfast for supper, so tonight while you're making your dinner plans, maybe waffles and whipped cream would be a good idea, and remember Shelli. Thank you everyone for coming and for the well wishes over the last few months. Mom loved you all so. Thank you.
And this coming from two ladies, because both Kathy and Tanis said, there is no way I'm going to get up there and share my tribute. So for both of them, there's nothing wrong with a little applause. Let's give them both a little applause. Thank you so much, Tanis. You did it. We have shared different tributes to Shelli today. We've done it through music. We know in our mind we've done it through dance. And when they were saying the blessing, if you didn't pay attention over here, there was a little dance going on because the ladies were going through the motions. And we've done it through spoken word written by those who loved her most dear. Let us now pause and reflect on some visual images of Shelli and those she loved. The music, of course, accompanying the photos are related to her belly dancing. So please say your own goodbyes and prayers for Shelli as we offer up this visual tribute to her. Shelli Shaw will be missed. But she'll never truly be gone if she's remembered in your hearts and in your minds. So think about Shelli, talk about her, and finally remember those times that she touched your heart in some way. Stories about Shelli will be appreciated, so please share these with each other afterwards or in the days or weeks to come. And the family would like to thank you for attending this celebration of Shelli's life. The interment will take place at a later time, so thank you for being here to celebrate Shelli's life, either in person or through our online streaming. One way you can truly honor Shelli is by remembering what you loved most about her and then carrying this over to your own life and sharing it with others. That way, Shelli will live on in your actions. If you haven't already picked up some chocolate from the back, please do so as you leave the chapel. As well, we will once again honor Shelli with some drumming as we leave from here. So please say your own goodbyes and prayers for Shelli and her family as I call upon our ladies to honor Shelli, again with the art of drumming once again. And I'd like to leave you with something that Shelli used to say when she felt that it was time to depart. Well, you probably have a lot to do today, so I'll let you go. Thank you for coming.